Charlie Kirk thought that he was a time traveler. He told me he was a time traveler.
What up, y'all? It's your boy, old man, aka O the Dread, and welcome to the channel. We need to have a serious conversation about the business of selling your soul. Usually, when we talk about grifters on the internet, we're talking about dudes selling crypto scams or alpha male courses, but there's a darker, more insidious hustle happening right in front of our faces. It's the racial Grievance Industrial Complex, a marketplace where black skin is used as a shield for white supremacist rhetoric, and business is booming. And sitting at the head of the table, counting her chips while the culture burns, is the undisputed queen of the pick-me pundits, Candace Amber Owens-Farmer. You've seen her. You've heard the sound bites. She's the one telling you that systemic racism is a myth, that George Floyd was a villain, and the only thing holding black people back is, well, black people. But recently, the mask hasn't just slipped, it's shattered. We're not just dealing with bad political takes anymore. We're watching a woman claiming that the former First Lady of France is a man, and that her deceased boss was a literal chrononaut sent from the future. The question is this a mental breakdown, or is this the final desperate evolution of a scam that's run its course? Today, we're doing an autopsy on the career of a woman who went from a liberal blogger, mocking Donald Trump's manhood, to the darling of the alt-right, and finally, to a conspiracy theorist so toxic that even the grifters had to excommunicate her. We're gonna connect the dots between her and the other bottom feeders in the self-hate sphere, characters like Myron, Anton, and even Nicki Minaj, to show you exactly how this ecosystem operates. So grab a hazmat suit, because we're about to dive into the sewer. To understand the con, you have to look at the setup. Most people think Candace Owens is a true believer. They think she had some road to Damascus moment where she realized conservative values were the answer. That's bull. Let's rewind the tape to 2007, Stamford High School. A teenage Candace Owens is terrorized by a group of white boys, including the son of the mayor, who leave her voicemail so racist and threatening, they'd make a Klansman blush. She didn't take that lying down. She fought back. With the help of the NAACP, the very organization she now trashes, she sued the Board of Education and won a $37,500 settlement. She used the mechanisms of civil rights advocacy to get justice. She experienced systemic failure, and she fought it. Keep that energy in mind. Now, jump to 2015. She's running a blog called Degree 180. And what is she publishing? Is she writing about the virtues of Reaganomics? Is she praising the GOP? No. She's writing articles calling the Republican Tea Party batshit crazy. She's writing hit pieces on Donald Trump mocking his intelligence and his anatomy. She was a liberal, a loud, aggressive, anti-conservative liberal. So how do you go from mocking the Tea Party to becoming the face of MAGA in less than 2 years? Simple. You follow the money. In 2016, she launched a project called Social Autopsy. The idea was to create a database to dox bullies online. Everyone hated it. The left hated it. The right hated it. It was a disaster. But when the backlash started, Candace didn't apologize. She pivoted. She claimed that the people attacking her were progressives. And suddenly, the sharks in the conservative water smelled blood. Figures like Milo Yiannopoulos and Mike Cernovich saw an opportunity. They saw a charismatic, articulate black woman who was angry at liberals. They knew that if they could flip her, she could be the ultimate weapon. They love-bombed her. They gave her a platform. And Candace Owens looked at the bank account, looked at the engagement metrics, and decided that being a black conservative paid a hell of a lot better than being a failed liberal marketing CEO. It wasn't an awakening. It was a business transaction. And once she tasted that attention, she needed more. She realized that the formula for going viral in right-wing spaces is remarkably simple. Be black and say the most anti-black things imaginable. She realized that there's a massive market for absolving white guilt. If a white pundit says systemic racism isn't real, they get called a racist. But if Candace says it, it validates them. It gives them a permission slip. She became the black friend that racist uncles could cite at Thanksgiving dinner. I'm not racist, I listen to Candace Owens. But she ain't the only one running this play. We have to acknowledge that this brain rot is spread. Candace is just the queen bee of a hive that includes the manosphere and now, pop culture. Look at Myron, Amadou Fudal, a former Homeland Security agent who now makes a living screaming at women on a podcast. He constantly disparages black women. He calls them ghetto, loud, undesirable. He literally wrote a book called Why Women Deserve Less. He engages in what we call racial arbitrage. He uses his identity as a black man to shield his white supremacist audience from criticism. He creates a safe space for the alt-right to spew hatred, nodding along like a bobblehead doll. And then you have Anton, the bitter uncle of the internet. He sits in his car and yells into a camera that racism doesn't exist because There's too much money out here. He tells black people that asking for reparations is entitled, saying that you should be paying for the air you breathe.
Should get nothing from reparations. I think that they should tax you for breathing. Tax you for breathing this good old air.
And don't think this behavior is limited to the griftosphere pundits. This Steppin Fetchit virus has infected the icons too. Look at Nicki Minaj. We just saw her go after journalist Don Lemon. Why? Because all of a sudden she's so passionate about religion? No, because attacking a gay black journalist earns her base points with the same MAGA crowd Candace panders to. Whether you think Don Lemon was right or wrong, which he may have broken a law doing what he did, but that's another conversation. It's clear that Nicki's shot at him was calculated. Nicki stood on stage at a Turning Point USA event, Candace's old stomping grounds, and pandered to an audience that wants to deport people who look just like her. She engaged in the same pick-me politics, throwing her own community under the bus for a round of applause from people who view her as entertainment, not an equal. Candace, Myron, Anton, Nicki, they're all playing the same role in the same twisted production. They trashed their own community to get head pats and super chats from people who would never let them into their country clubs. Candace took this to the next level with BLEXIT, the black exit from the Democratic Party. She sold merchandise. She held rallies. She convinced Kanye West to design shirts for it until he realized he was being used and bailed. But the lowest point? The moment she cemented her status as a villain, the George Floyd documentary. After a man was murdered on camera sparking a global movement for justice, Candace released the greatest lie ever told, ironically named. She spent hours trying to convince the world that George Floyd was a thug, a criminal, and a drug addict who essentially killed himself. She wasn't interested in truth. She was interested in being the counter-narrative. She knew that millions of people wanted a reason to not care about police brutality, and she sold them that reason for $19.99 a month on the Daily Wire. Alright, now hold up. I know some of y'all already jump into the comments like, but oh man, she speaks the truth. She's fearless. Is she? Is it fearless to punch down? Is it fearless to tell wealthy white audiences exactly what they want to hear? Or is it calculated? You see, selling out your own race is a high-paying gig, but it has a ceiling. Eventually, the white nationalists get bored of hearing you say slavery was a choice. Eventually, the outrage wears off. So to keep the engagement high, you have to offer them a new drug. You have to trade political betrayal for metaphysical insanity. You have to get crazier. You have to go further. And that is how we end up with time travelers. Candace finally crossed the line. She started flirting with anti-Semitism. She started talking about Frankist cults and blood libel. She got into a public beef with Ben Shapiro, her boss at the Daily Wire. Now, regardless of how you feel about Ben Shapiro, he saw the writing on the wall. He fired her. She lost the biggest platform in conservative media. She lost the institutional backing. She was out in the cold. So what does a grifter do when the establishment kicks them out? They double down on the fringe. They go full Alex Jones. She started obsessing over Brigitte Macron, the First Lady of France. Candace decided to stake her entire professional reputation on the theory that Brigitte Macron was born a man named Jean-Michel. This wasn't a political critique. This was 4chan level brain rot. She spent hours analyzing photos of ears and kneecaps. It got so bad that the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, filed a defamation lawsuit against her. She's currently being sued by a G7 world leader because she cannot stop spreading internet rumors. That's not journalism. That's a spiral. And then, the tragedy happened. In September 2025, Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, the man who hired Candace in 2017 and gave her a career, was assassinated. A normal human being would mourn. A friend would pay respects. Candace Owens used his death as content for her most insane conspiracy yet. She went on our podcast and told millions of followers that Charlie Kirk wasn't just a victim of political violence. No, she claimed he was a time traveler. She looked into the camera with a straight face and said that Charlie Kirk had confided in her that he attended a secret X-Men school for gifted children run by the CIA. She claimed that he had foreknowledge of events because he was a chrononaut involved in Project Looking Glass. She turned a man's murder into a sci-fi screenplay. It was so disrespectful, so detached from reality, that Charlie's widow, Erica Kirk, had to publicly beg her to stop. This isn't just grifting anymore. This is a break from reality. This is what happens when you spend a decade selling lies. Eventually, you forget what the truth looks like. It's almost impressive how thoroughly she's destroyed her own credibility. She could have been a legitimate voice. She's smart, she's quick on her feet, she understands media better than almost anyone. But she chose to be a rent-a-friend for the worst people in America. She looks at men like Myron Gaines and Anton Daniels, men who have built their entire brands on degrading their own people, and she sees kindred spirits. She sees a business model. She validates the Uncle Ruckus energy. She gives it a pretty face and polished speech. But here's the reality. The people she's pandering to, they don't respect her. To the white nationalists in her comment section, she's a tool, a useful idiot, a shield that can hold up when someone calls them a bigot. And the second she stops being useful, the second she becomes too much of a liability with her lawsuits and her time traveler talk, they will drop her like a bad habit. So let's call it what it is. Candace Owens is Miss Steppin Fetchit. In the 1930s, Lincoln Perry became the first black millionaire in Hollywood by playing a character named Steppin Fetchit, the laziest, dumbest man in the world. He got rich by performing a caricature that comforted white audiences, confirming their bias that black people were inferior. Candace Owens is running the same exact play in 4K. She's mastered the art of the intellectual buck and dance. She realizes that if she shucks and jives hard enough for the white conservative establishment, if she tells them exactly what they want to hear about black pathology and welfare queens, they'll throw coins at her feet. It is a performance of profound indignity. It's self-negation as a business strategy. She engages in this performance because she hates the part of herself that was a victim in 2007. Somewhere inside that multi-millionaire grifter is still a 17-year-old girl listening to racist voicemails in Stamford, Connecticut. And that girl would be ashamed of the woman she became. Because the only difference between the boys who threatened her then and the men she panders to now is that she's on their payroll. She sold her people for a seat at a table where they joke about her the second she leaves the room. And that is nasty work. That's the video. If you enjoyed this autopsy of a sellout, do me a solid and smash that like button. It helps the channel push through the algorithm. Let me know in the comments, do you think Candace actually believes this time travel nonsense, or is this just the next phase of the minstrel show? I want to hear your takes. I'm trying to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, so if you rock with the raw, unfiltered commentary, hit that subscribe button. If not, at the very least, be the person you like to meet. Peace.
Oh man, I'm about to pop out. And you know I brought the drop out.